Hey, babe, would you mind turning that?
Hey, Elizabeth, just to let you know, people can hear you.
Hey there, I was just shouting at someone to turn down the volume and mute themselves. Ha.
And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We are allowing people some time to get on the webinar, just a few minutes though, because we have a lot to cover today. So we will get started shortly. And again, we are just giving folks a few extra seconds to get on the webinar, but we will be starting shortly. And just to let everyone know, everyone is muted. If you have questions throughout the presentation, we ask that you type them into the Q&A box, which you all seem to be doing already. And hello from Franktown too. That's part of Douglas County where I'm from. So we are happy to have you with us today. And let us know if there's any problems with the audio or anything like that now that we're getting started. You can just pop those comments into the Q&A also. And we are going to go ahead now and get started. And today we are talking about know your rights with police encounters. And this is a presentation we do very often, lots of times in high schools, places like that. Today, and with what's going on, we thought it would be a timely presentation for everyone. This presentation is hosted by Jessica Howard, who is our community education manager. Prior to her role that she's had for about a year as the community education manager, she was the affiliate's paralegal for 6 years. And Jessica oversees the development and implementation of public education programs, including Know Your Rights trainings, just like this one. She is passionate about disability rights, and Jessica enjoys reading, hiking, and photography, hiking, and trying to find new foods. So Jessica holds a bachelor's degree in political science and a paralegal certificate. So we're gonna just send it on over to Jess, and she will take it from here.
Thank you so much, Delana. Also, let me go ahead and share my screen with you guys. Also, we're really humbled to have also Elizabeth Epps with us today. Elizabeth Epps works with us as our Smart Justice organizer, as well as one of the co-directors of Colorado Freedom Fund, which is mission is basically to get people out of cages by paying their bail when they cannot afford to do so. And so Elizabeth hopefully will be able to stay with us for the entire webinar because she'll be talking about, one of the things that we are going to discuss in terms of a call to action to support one of the bills that is being heard today, like almost close to this moment. But if she can't stay, then we'll certainly still go on and introduce the information. But we're really happy to have you, Elizabeth. Okay, so again, my name is Jessica Howard, and I'm the Community Education Manager for the ACLU of Colorado. So before we begin, I think it's really important to acknowledge what is happening around us. There are protests and demonstrations here in Denver and throughout the country in response to another yet Black life being taken unmercifully by police officers who are supposed to serve and protect us. The death of George Floyd has appeared to awaken another part of the public consciousness about the stark differences in realities of Black lives in America, and that police brutality has to stop. We here at the ACLU of Colorado have taken on many cases throughout our history against the use of excessive force by police officers in our communities, and yet even more has to be done. So before we begin, I think it's important that we take a moment to quietly reflect on the gravity of this moment. So many Black lives have been lost. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, who would have turned 27 years old tomorrow, but also the lives that have been taken by police in our very own communities. Marvin Booker, Elijah McClain, Michael Marshall, Devon Bailey, Paul Childs, Jessica Hernandez, and the list continues. So also to acknowledge that the fight against state-sanctioned violence extends beyond our borders. Black lives continue to be at risk in Brazil. And so it's also not lost on me that today marks the 31st anniversary of the student protests that led to the Tiananmen Square massacre, the very same day that my own sister was born. So happy birthday to her. So please, let's just take a small moment of silence to reflect on how we came to this very moment, but also to prepare ourselves to roll up our sleeves because we all have work to do, including in this very webinar. So. Thank you. So let's go ahead and get started. So today we're talking about know your rights as it relates to police encounters. And so for the scope of our training, this is really meant to be a foundational training. The training is not meant to provide legal advice. As Delana mentioned, my background is I am a paralegal, and so I'm not an attorney, but even if I was an attorney, I wouldn't be able to provide legal advice because each situation is very is driven by its individual facts. And so just know that going in, and that, when it comes to law enforcement, different rules apply in different situations, whether you're on school campus, in airports, or dealing with immigration agents and FBI. So the kind of law enforcement we're talking about is kind of your garden variety police officers that belong to a local police enforcement agency. And so today, we're going to be practicing how de-escalating interactions with law enforcement, asserting your rights, reporting police misconduct, and then go into action steps and how we can demand more accountability from our police officers. And so, let me definitely say this, and that is that being stopped by police is a stressful experience that can go bad quickly. Here, we're describing what the law requires, but also offering strategies for handling police encounters. We want to be very clear in this, in that the burden of de-escalation does not fall on private citizens. It does fall on police officers. And yet we can't assume that officers will behave in ways that protects our safety or that they will respect our rights, even when we assert them. So you may be able to reduce the risk to yourself by staying calm and not exhibiting hostility towards officers. But the very truth of the matter is that there are situations where people have done everything they could to put an officer at ease, and yet still may end up injured or killed. I also want to note that this topic and part of the video that we will be watching today can be triggering. And there are definitely scenes that can be triggering, especially for our communities that have experienced time and again profiling and brutality at the hands of police. And so my hope of the webinar is to be informative for everyone, so we can walk away with knowing what are the available resources and tools out there to respond to ultimately and hold our public officials and public servants accountable to the community. So please remember throughout the training that the ultimate goal of the Know Your Rights education is not necessarily to guarantee an outcome in that moment, but to keep you safe. The goal is to improve your chances of getting home safely and to a legal victory if you should end up in court. Okay. And so part of the training, usually like this is going to be kind of an abbreviated version of what we usually provide, because we do have a very packed agenda for today. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to watch a series of videos, and these videos have been created by Flex Your Rights. They are a nonprofit organization whose mission is, to educate the public about police encounters. And so the three videos that I have is going to be based off of the 10 rules for dealing with police. And this is narrated by Billy Murphy, who happened to be the attorney for the family of Freddie Gray in Baltimore when he was killed by cops. So let's go ahead and get started.
Just there's no sound on the video for those of us who are watching it. I think because you muted yourself.
Sorry, I think I know exactly
Yeah.
what might be the issue. Can you hear that?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay.
Good evening, my friends. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Billy Murphy, and we're going to talk about how to deal with the police. I've been a judge, but I'm best known as a criminal defense lawyer. I know how the law works, and I know that for many people, the law sometimes doesn't work. But I'm going to show you how to make the law work for you. I see how the choices my clients make have a massive impact on the outcomes of their police encounters, even if, and especially if, you've done nothing wrong. There are lots of good police out there doing what needs to be done. And I don't need to tell you that there are also too many cops who don't respect the basic rights of innocent people. But you don't get to choose who you're dealing with. And even the nicest cop will use your mistakes against you. That's precisely why every citizen, every one of you, must possess the tools to confidently assert your rights if you have to. By the show of hands, who's here because either you, a friend, or a family member has been on the business end of a bad police encounter? Then you're in the right place. Who's got a story they want to share with the class? What's your story?
I got hassled by Highway Patrol the other day.
Tell us about that.
I was ready to explode. This was like the 4th time this year I've been pulled over for nothing.
License and registration?
Yeah, I know the drill, man.
Excuse me?
License? Registration.
No need for the attitude there, bro. I'm looking out for your safety and everyone else's on this road.
Whatever, man.
Okay, step out of the vehicle for me. Turn around and put your hands in the air. Turn around and put your hands in the air.
Yes, man.
Walk forward. Walk forward. Hands on the hood. Hands on the hood of the car. Do it. Spread your legs.
What are you doing, man?
Relax.
I didn't do anything.
Relax.
God, I didn't do anything.
You got a bad attitude. Now, I pulled you over because you were swerving between lanes. That's all. Now, you got a choice here. If you cooperate, you're going to make things a whole lot easier on yourself. Now, what that means is you got to be straight with me. You understand?
Yeah.
Here's the deal. You don't speak unless I ask a question. You understand?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, that hurts, man. That's too tight.
Relax. You're fine. Now, where are you coming from?
College. I'm coming home from college, man.
You're going to have problems with gangs moving guns down this highway. You're not packing any Tech 9s in there, are you?
No, sir.
So you don't mind if I take a look?
Go ahead.
All right, Darren, you just relax. You don't move. All right, stand up. Stand up. Walk back with me. Keep walking. Keep walking. All right, have a seat. Have a seat, Darren. Now cross your legs. Cross your legs.
And when that cop was done roughing me up, he made me sit there like a dog while he ripped up my car. I've got nothing to hide, but that's disrespectful.
All right, just sit tight.
I sat there forever while he hung out in his car.
All right, Darren, stand up. Stand up. Turn around. This is a citation for excessive lane change. Take care of this as soon as possible. Sign that. Sign it. Here's your copy. Get your my road.
That cop profiled me. It's ridiculous. I go to school. I'm not a gun trafficker.
I know exactly how you feel, man. That's why we're here. It's certainly possible you were profiled, but it's practically impossible to prove that. You never know for sure what's going on in an officer's head. I hate to say it, but from what I hear, it sounds like you broke the first rule of dealing with the police. Always be calm and cool.
Hold up. Are you saying that he deserved to get treated like that?
No, what I'm saying is a police encounter is absolutely the worst time and place to vent your frustrations about police. Getting stopped by police is always frustrating and scary, but you could have played it much smarter by being calm and cool. As soon as you opened your mouth, you failed the attitude test.
License and registration?
Yeah, I know the drill, man.
Your attitude only got worse.
Whatever, man.
Don't ever talk back. Don't ever raise your voice. Don't ever use profanity with the police officer. Being hostile with police is stupid and dangerous. You can't win that game on the street where they're the king. Police have a dangerous job. Even the most professional officers might become aggressive if they feel threatened or if their authority is challenged. Always control your words, the tone of your voice, and your body language. If you're visibly scared and angry, it's easy for an officer to get scared and angry too. Things could have turned out way worse than they did.
Now! Stomach! On your stomach!
Can you think of a better way you could have greeted that officer?
Good evening, officer. How's it going?
That's better. Calm and cool.
Hold on. What's all this polite talk? They don't respect us, so why should we respect them?
For real.
This isn't just about respect. It's about common sense. If you don't check the ego at the door and you let it take control of you during a police encounter, you'll regret it every time. Following the rules doesn't guarantee that the police will respect your rights, but they can keep you from digging yourself into a deeper hole.
Okay. So we're going to basically, as we go through these videos, kind of review, what we've seen and kind of comment here and there. And so, of course, we have the first rule, always be calm and cool. And, I'll admit, this is a hard one for me as a Black woman who, time and again sees, the indignities that, my community is facing every time they are having a police encounter. But what I want to, again, make sure we understand is that in that particular moment, they have the saying kind of police is king. Is really hard to get them to de-escalate themselves even when they should be doing so. And so, no, we should not be living in a world where we are in fear of exercising our rights is going to lead us down a road of being injured. But we see the reality time and time again. So if we remember the rule, and our ultimate rule is making sure that we are safe in the moment, then we are going to find other ways, to hold police accountable. And again, we are going to go over that later on in this webinar. So I'm not going to, belabor this point, particularly for communities of color. This is the talk that we receive time and time again, or the talk that you give to your own children and family in terms of being calm and cool or whatever in order to keep, your physical body safe. And so we'll just, keep it there, but also understanding that, because police are having a hard time keeping themselves accountable in that moment, we are going to find ways to keep them accountable later on. So just to, kind of, put the point that in a usual and a lawful traffic stop, police can order a driver and passenger to get out of the car, kind of to, I guess, secure the area, and that knowing that if you don't get out of the car, you could be in trouble for disobeying a lawful order. So just know that. But if you do get out of the car, please close the door behind you, because when you do leave that door open, it invites the officer to kind of see whatever is in your car in plain view, and we just don't want to invite the officers into our person, our vehicle, our homes, whatever. So just keep that in mind, that if you are ordered to get out of the car, automatically close the door behind you so it doesn't give them reason to go in. Okay, so with that, we will go into the second video.
Following the rules doesn't guarantee that the police will respect your rights, but they can keep you from digging yourself into a deeper hole. Let's talk about what your rights are in the first place. This is the Bill of Rights. These are the first 10 amendments that were added to the U.S. Constitution after it was ratified in 1789. These rights are protected under federal law, which means everything we're talking about today applies in all 50 states. There are 3 amendments in particular that protect your rights during police encounters. The 4th Amendment states that the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. The 5th Amendment states that no person shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. During a police encounter, the smartest way to take the 5th is just to keep your mouth shut, because you always have the right to remain silent. We'll talk in a minute about how this works. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. So if the police interrogate or arrest you, asking for a lawyer is a good way to assert your right to remain silent. Lawyer up. That's right. Regardless of what you have seen on TV, police don't usually have to read you your rights, even if you're arrested. So it's up to you to make sure that you understand the law and make smart choices. If police flag you down, pull over immediately, turn off your car, and place your hands on the wheel. The police like to see your hands for their own safety, so wait until they request your paperwork before reaching for it. At night, it's also a good idea to turn on the interior light so that the officer can see you're not armed. Darren, do you see any ways you could have handled yourself better?
Good evening, officer. How's it going?
Did you know you were swerving between lanes?
No, officer.
Let me see your license and registration.
Sure. My license. Here's my registration.
Now, Darren, we've had some problems with gangs moving guns down this highway. You're not packing any Tech 9s, are you?
No, sir.
I didn't think so. So you don't mind if I take a look, do you?
Officer, I know you're just doing your job. I don't have any guns or whatever, but I don't consent to searches.
Perfect. Rule number 3, you have the right to refuse searches. This comes directly from the 4th Amendment. For your 4th Amendment protection to legally apply, you must be prepared to clearly state your refusal under pressure. Everyone repeat after me. I don't consent to searches.
I don't consent to searches.
The officers can't hear you, so say it again.
I don't consent to searches.
One more time.
I don't consent to searches.
You a law student or something?
So if I show that I know the rules, he might think I'm a law student. Or maybe I got big legal connections.
Perhaps. But don't get carried away by saying stuff like,
I know my rights. Get out of my face. I'm gonna sue you.
Never tell the officer you know your rights. Show the officer you know your rights by asserting them calmly.
You seem nervous. Is there anything in this car I need to know about?
No, officer.
All right. Please step out of the vehicle.
Police may legally order you out of your vehicle, so you should comply.
Walk back here with me. Stand right here for me. Now, you got 2 choices. You can make this better or worse for yourself. Now, if you cooperate, it's going to make things a lot easier on you.
Beware that the police may legally lie to you, so never let false threats or promises trick you into waiving your rights.
Now, if you don't, I'm going to call up the K9 unit, and those dogs are going to rip apart your car. They're going to find what you're hiding. That's what you're going to be.
Refusing a search request is not evidence of guilt and doesn't give the officer the legal right to search or detain you. Don't get tricked. Unless you're detained or arrested, you may terminate the encounter at any time, but don't wait for the officer to dismiss you. Simply ask if you're free to go.
Darren, those dogs are going to rip apart your car, and they're going to find what you're hiding. Like I said, what's it going to be?
Officer, are you detaining me or am I free to go?
Good. This line can help withdraw you from an encounter. Saying you want to leave establishes that the encounter is not voluntary, which could help you later if you end up in court. Let's practice that line. Everyone repeat after me. Are you detaining me, or am I free to go? Are you detaining me, or am I free to go? One more time. Are you detaining me, or am I free to go?
All right. You want to play it like that? You want to bump it up to the next level? Fine. You stay right here. Don't go anywhere.
Asserting your rights won't make the police love you, but it might make them extra cautious about violating your rights.
Aaron, this is a citation for excessive lane changing. Take care of that as soon as possible.
Thank you, officer. I understand refusing a search doesn't make me guilty, but if I'm doing nothing wrong, why don't I just let the police search me and get it done with?
You have the right to let police search you. You also have the right to refuse. The choice is yours. But there are some reasons to think carefully about this. The officer isn't your butler. Searches can get real messy. If they damage anything, you might not be compensated because you agreed to the search. Besides, you never know for sure what a careless person, relative, friend, previous owner might have left in your car at some point. If the police find any illegal items after you consent to a search request, you can be arrested even if you had nothing to do with it.
You have the right to
Consenting to a search request automatically makes the search legal in the eyes of the law. And the Fourth Amendment doesn't require officers to tell you about your right to refuse. So if you're pulled over, don't try to figure out whether or not the officer has probable cause to legally search you. You always have the right to refuse searches.
I don't consent to searches.
But they're going to search us anyway.
Sometimes they will, but saying no isn't just about stopping the search. It might stop the search or it might not.
cross your leg.
The point is that refusing the search could help you later if you end up in court. If the police search you without consent, your lawyer can challenge that. As your attorney, I'd be much more likely to win your case if you said no to the search.
If I do not consent, when are police allowed to search my car? You mentioned probable cause. What does that mean?
Probable cause means police must have clear facts or evidence to believe you're involved in criminal activity. In other words, an officer's hunch without evidence of illegal activity is not enough to search or arrest you. But it doesn't take much. Most avoidable police searches happen not because police have probable cause. They happen because people get tricked or intimidated into consenting.
So an expired registration isn't probable cause to search my car?
No, it's not. But you still got to be careful. Courts are eager to uphold police searches, so something suspicious about you or your car could be considered probable cause. I'm not the kind of guy to tell you how you should express yourself. Expressing yourself is one thing, but exposing yourself to police by being a public nuisance is ignorant.
Everybody knows who I roll with.
Rule number 6, don't expose yourself.
Okay, so before we go in and review this clip, I do want to make some visual notes. So, certainly this is a reenactment of a traffic stop, but I do want to make a note, I think maybe folks may have noticed that, the actor, either had his hands, kind of behind his back while he was talking to the officer, or when the officer was, asking for a driver's license and his registration, he's kind of reaching in the back of his pocket or going, into the glove compartment. Again, I usually say for safety, keep your hands where your officer can see them. And if they are asking you, for your driver's license or for your registration, I think it's always kind of good practice to also verbalize your actions if you can, in terms of hey officer, you asked me for my registration. My registration is in my glove compartment. May I reach there? Or, my driver's license is in my purse, which happens to be in the back. May I reach there? Just as another layer of just so that the officer, can't say, oh, I thought he was reaching for a weapon. You're making it very clear what your actions are. So to kind of go over the slide, this is really about showing the officer you know your rights versus telling them. And so for me, the ultimate goal is that if nothing else, if you leave here with nothing else, is that you have certain phrases that you can use time and again when you are in an interaction with law enforcement. So one, you do have the right to remain silent. So saying I'm going to remain silent, or I'm going to remain silent and I'd like to see a lawyer. But please know that, like, if you are going to remain silent, then remain silent afterwards. Also knowing that you do have the right to refuse searches. Now, of course, again, reiterating what your rights are may not necessarily, prevent the officer from like going ahead and continuing to question you or continuing to search your items or your person. But again, the point of it is to make sure that you solidify your rights, so then that way if there does become an issue in court, then you can say, hey, I did assert my rights and the police officers ignored it anyway. Also, unfortunately, police are trained to, investigate, and they, give you false statements or promises and tricking you to, waiving your rights, whether that is to continue talking or to, to search you. And so just kind of know that just because an officer says, hey, a neighbor has implicated you of being at a certain place at a certain time, like continue with I'm going to remain silent. I'm not consenting to searches. So then that way you're not tricked into consenting to giving up any evidence or anything about yourself that you don't want to. And then we'll also kind of go a little bit later on in terms of the statement, are you detaining me or am I free to go? And usually when you make this statement based off of what the officer's responses will kind of let you know whether you are in the casual conversation or if you're being detained or if you're being arrested. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on. And then of course, the whole like not exposing yourself. Of course, again, certainly we have rights to express ourselves, but we also know there's reality that some of us, particularly communities of color, aren't able to express ourselves like our white peers, and so that's always in the back of our mind. And so certainly, again, if you're at home and an officer comes to your door, making sure you close that door behind you, or if you're in a traffic stop, making sure you close that door behind you, so then that way anything that is in plain view isn't up for a police to then continue and investigate. So now, we're going to get into basically street stops, which is kind of like your Terry stops, stop and frisks. And so we'll kind of go in and see in those situations what to do.
Mr. Murphy, I appreciate you being here today talking about constitutional rights and all, but in my hood, police don't care about nobody's right. They do whatever they want. Tell us more. The other day, I was leaving my building on my way to work.
Ahorita, ¿qué? En 30 minutos llego. A las 5 de esto, chequea el expreso. Simón, ahí te caigo. No voy a llegar tarde. ¿Vos fue? Ok, va.
See your hands. Put them on the car. Right. There's a dope, man. Come on, give it up.
I ain't got nothing.
Let me see your pockets. Pull them out. Your ID?
Got an ID here.
Run that, please. Let me see your hat. See you coming out of there.
Yeah, it's a known drug spot.
It's my home. That's where I live at.
You go to school or you working?
I work at a restaurant. That's where I'm going.
He's clean. Get your stuff.
Thank you for your cooperation. You stay out of trouble.
This is not the first time. It probably ain't the last. That's how they do around here.
I'm not surprised. In cities across the country, these stop and frisks are occurring at record rates, especially in low-income communities of color. They happen so frequently they seem perfectly normal to you.
Yeah, that's how they do.
This might be common, but that doesn't make it right. In fact, it sounds like those cops searched you illegally.
See your hands. Put them on the car.
If police have reasonable suspicion to believe you're involved in a crime, they're legally allowed to detain you for a short period of time. Reasonable suspicion requires less evidence than probable cause, but it basically means the officer has some specific reason to believe that you're up to something. For example, police can legally stop someone who matches the description of a criminal suspect. A suspect who drops a suspicious object after seeing the police, or someone who runs away after seeing the police. Don't ever run from the police. That's part of what the officers can use for probable cause, and they'll run you down and make you regret it. But if you see police approaching, be calm and assert your rights if need be, but don't run. If they have reasonable suspicion to detain you, police may pat down the outside of your clothing to check for weapons, but only if they have a basis for suspecting that you're armed. If they feel a hard item that might be a weapon, the police may pull it out of your pocket to check it out. Police may ask you to show them what's in your pockets. Remember, you don't have to do it. Emptying your pockets is the same as consenting to a search, and you always have the right to refuse. In your case, there appeared to be no basis to justify their stop and frisk.
It happened so fast, it was over before I even knew it. What could I have done different?
You don't have a lot of immediate options here. If police detain and frisk you, you have the right to clearly state your refusal to consent to the search.
Officer, I'm not resistant, but I do not consent to searches.
But you should only verbally refuse, never physically resist. Never. Just touching a cop could get you tasered or beaten. You could also get charged with felony assault.
Face forward.
Sometimes people get in trouble for merely standing near others holding contraband, or if it is found nearby.
What do we have here?
Police may try to get you to snitch on yourself or on others, but remember that police may legally lie to you, so don't get tricked into waiving your rights.
We know you bought this weed. That makes you part of a drug conspiracy. Now you give up your supplier, or else we're going to charge you as an accessory to drug trafficking.
I'm going to remain silent like to see a lawyer.
I'm going to remain silent. I'd like to see a lawyer. If you're being interrogated or you're under arrest, these magic words are your best legal protection. They're kind of like a legal condom. Say them with me. I'm going to remain silent. I'd like to see a lawyer.
I seen you drop this, man. Just admit it's yours. It's a slap on the wrist. You made things difficult for me, and I'll charge you with possession and evidence tampering. That's a felony.
Don't get tricked. You know what to say. If police pressure you to snitch, you need a lawyer. Use the magic words.
Officer, I'm going to remain silent. I'd like to see a lawyer.
But remember, just because you ask for a lawyer doesn't mean they have to stop questioning you. If you keep talking, your words might still be used against you, so shut your mouth until you've seen a lawyer.
But when do you actually get a lawyer?
That depends. If you keep your mouth shut, you might not even need one, but if you're arrested and charged with a crime, you need help. If you can't afford a lawyer, one will be appointed for you by the court. The point is that you can't talk your way out of a police interrogation without a lawyer. That's a big mistake. Almost anything you say to the police can and will be used against you in court.
But what if the police try to make you sign a confession or something?
Don't sign anything without a lawyer, and don't rely on the police to explain what it says. Read it for yourself. Usually, the only document that's safe to sign is a promise to appear in court.
What if police come up to me just asking for ID?
Hey, hold up, man. Let me see your ID.
Carrying an ID is required when you're driving, but there's otherwise no law requiring you to carry an ID. But in some states, police can require you to give your name if they have reasonable suspicion to believe you're involved in criminal activity.
How do you know if police have reasonable suspicion?
Remember, police need reasonable suspicion to detain you. So one way to tell if they have reasonable suspicion is to ask if you're free to go.
Hey, hold up, man. What's your ID?
Excuse me, officer. Are you detaining me or am I free to go?
Just want to talk to you, man. What's your name?
Are you detaining me or am I free to go?
I'm not detaining you, man, but
I promise, I'm clean.
sure
Don't got
is,
time
man.
to chat. Gotta go.
They don't let me go.
Then you're being detained because the officer thinks there's some reason to suspect you of a crime.
Shoot some ID.
Excuse me, officer. Are you detaining me or am I free to go?
Turn around, put your hands up on the wall.
In that situation, you could be arrested if you refuse to reveal your identity. Technically, police can't make you identify yourself anytime they want. But on the street, withholding your identity frequently leads to a detention or even an arrest. If your goal is to just get the encounter over with, then identifying yourself might be your best option. But if you're prepared to fight things out in court, you can flex your rights by refusing to cooperate with random ID requests.
Okay. So to go over this part of the video, you know, there's the rule of kind of like not running. And of course, like what we're, you know, seeing when it comes to police encounters is that, you know, it's kind of like expected that like particular communities of color, when we know that we're coming up against police like that, we would want to run. And I want to make sure that we are clear that even if you do run, that it doesn't give police a free-for-all to use excessive force against you, and yet we're seeing it time and again. But again, you know, police can detain you if they have reasonable suspicion, and certainly I don't want to go into the legal, you know, doctrines of reasonable suspicion and, you know, probable cause. But again, one way to know whether or not, you know, an officer has reasonable suspicion that, you know, you are about to commit a crime or in the have committed a crime is asking if you are being detained or if I'm free to go. And again, if the officer is like, well, no, you're free to go, then that is your cue to calmly go and walk away. Anything outside of that, you are being detained. And then of course, again, it goes without saying to not touch an officer, because if an officer is coming in at an 8 and, you know, we've seen time again, you know, even just brushing up against the officer seems to bump it up to a 12. So even if, you know, you have said you don't consent to searches and they search you anyway, it's best to not reach to get them to stop, just to continue to verbalize your rights. And again, to try not to get tricked. Again, we don't expect an officer to say, well, you know, do I have your consent to search? They're not usually going to phrase it that way. It's going to be a command of like, empty out your pockets, open up your backpack, knowing that if you do so, then that in itself is consent. So not to get tricked in that way. So again, based off of the encounter, you know, if you're asked, you know, am I being detained or am I free to go? If they say, yeah, you're free to go, then know that it's a casual conversation and no interaction is required. And so you should, you know, be able to walk away. If they say no, you know, we have questions, know that it's going to probably be either a, you know, being detained, in which, you know, they have either some kind of, you know, suspicion that, you know, you are committing a crime or about to commit a crime, or if, you know, you're being arrested in full handcuffs and they have, you know, clear evidence or probable cause to believe that a crime is committed or is about to be committed. So now that we've kind of gone over, you know, what our basic rights are, certainly, you know, we are in these situations, things are going, you know, awry, police are using excessive force. And so what do we do when we come across police misconduct, and how do we keep our peace officers or police officers accountable? And so certainly, you know, one of the rules is, you know, reporting misconduct, being a good witness, either by filing a written complaint with the law enforcement agency involved, which I'll show you the website for Denver in terms of if you see something in Denver, how you can go about at least going online to file a complaint. And then also, the ACLU, if you would like to share your story of yourself or someone you've witnessed experience police misconduct, then certainly you can go to our website, which has a form for you to fill out a request for legal assistance. And we'll provide all of those resources on our website, as well as send that information your way after today's event. So when it comes to police misconduct, there is the issue when it comes to whether you have the right to record the police. And certainly we saw from last week or over the week and a half that it's a powerful reminder when we record the police of how effective video can be in holding law enforcement accountable. So what do you do if you think you are witnessing police brutality? Is one, stand at a safe distance, and if possible, use your phone to record video of what's happening. As long as you are not interfering with the officer and do not stand close enough to obstruct their movements, you have the right to observe and record the events that are plainly visible in public spaces. And so if an officer tells you you can't record, calmly just say, hey, officer, recording the police is protected under the First Amendment. Second, to not try to hide the fact that you're recording. Police officers don't have a reasonable expectation of privacy when they're performing their jobs. But, of course, keep in mind that people that they are interacting with may want privacy. And so that, there's a situation where you may want to notify them that you're recording. And then third, police officers may not confiscate or demand to view your photographs or video without a warrant, and they may not delete your photographs or video under any circumstances. So if an officer orders you to stop recording or orders you to hand over your phone, you should, firmly just tell the officer you do not consent doing so, and remind the officer that taking photographs or videos is your right under the First Amendment. Be aware, though, that officers have been known to arrest people for refusing to comply, even though their orders to do so are illegal. And so even, though the arrest would be unlawful, those are kind of one of those, weighing the personal risk of arrest and also an extension of that, whether or not an officer may search you against the value of recording. Also, things to note, of course, is, writing down everything you can remember, including an officer's badge and patrol, car numbers, get contact information from witnesses. If you're injured, to try to seek medical attention immediately and take photographs of those injuries, and to write, a potential written complaint with the agency's Internal Affairs Division or Civil Complaint Board. And so one of definitely the reasons why, we kind of stress the importance of, like, if you know what your rights are and, time and time again, like what those phrases are, it helps in order to free up the brain space to then begin to pay attention to some of the details, like the badge number, what they look like, time of day, things like that, because those are usually the things that agencies ask for when you are filing a complaint. So certainly, if you can use your video on your phone, if you have one, but if you want, like an app to use, certainly the ACLU has a mobile justice app. And essentially what this does is that you hit the recording button, it records, and if you either stop the recording or for some reason your phone is taken away from you or you turn it off, that recording will stop and it will get sent to the ACLU. I will say, as someone who has, viewed some of these videos, it's super important that whenever you do get a chance to go back to the app and then fill out the report with the videos. Unfortunately, we've had so many times where we've gotten videos of police recordings, but we don't know who the agency is, the time of day, who did it, their contact information. So just please be sure that if you do use the app and you do record, that you go back and type out a written report. And this app can be found on the Apple App Store and Google Play. I do want to make a quick note about protests. Now, for folks who received my emails, we are having a separate Know Your Rights presentation next Tuesday about protesters' rights. And so we'll go into more detail about that, but I thought that it might be worth just kind of go over here is that, you know, the same kind of rules apply when you're protesting and you interact with police. Staying calm, not disrupting anyone else's activity, and that the First Amendment protects you of your right to protest. That if an officer detains you, you can use that phrase, ask if you are free to go. If yes, walk away. If you are arrested, know that you do still have the right to remain silent, and you do have the right to not consent to a search of yourself or your belongings. And then also, you know, again, when it comes to recording, police officers cannot confiscate or demand to view your photographs without that warrant, and they can't delete the data under any circumstances. I do want to say, like, a note about like being aware when you're filming. When you are recording the police, particularly in a protest, it's important to be mindful of other people who might be caught in the frame. Photos and videos that are shared online have been used by law enforcement agencies to identify people in crowds. And so if you can, try to get permission from people who may be identifiable in your photos or videos before sharing them out. Because unfortunately, some demonstrators may face negative repercussions if they are identified, especially if perhaps they may be undocumented. There are a number of photo and video editing tools online that can help blur faces. YouTube Studio has a built-in tool for kind of identifying that, as well as Snapchat, Instagram can also have some useful tools to kind of quickly be able to do that and protect bystanders. Other ways and other tools and strategies you may be able to use in terms of reporting misconduct is filing a misconduct complaint with the appropriate agency. Certainly attend public meetings that can address police misconduct and offer policy recommendations and know, you know, what those agencies are. And then also supporting legislation demanding more police accountability, which is what Elizabeth will cover. So for example, you know, because of time, we're just going to kind of look at Denver. You know, if you go to the Office of the Independent Monitor, there is a web page in terms of how to fill out accommodations and complaints form, which we'll see if I can find it here. So, you know, just kind of, if you have time, go through the form, you know, look at what the information that they're asking for, and like kind of play with it so you kind of know what questions are being asked. So then that way, you know, if you ever do find yourself in the midst of a police encounter, you know what information you should be looking out for. So then that way you can then quickly record it, whether it be through your phone or making a voice memo. And that way you can go and be able to know exactly what needs to be filled out for some of these things. And definitely doing a Google search in your area to see if your local police agency has something similar set up to file a complaint. In terms of Denver, you know, if you want to know a bit about like what's supposed to be going on, certainly there's a few avenues. The Denver Office of the Independent Monitor, that is the civilian oversight agency for the county and city and county of Denver. This agency is mostly composed of attorneys and policy experts, but there is a community engagement side of it. So like there's a community relations director, a youth and a youth outreach manager and coordinators. There's also the Citizen Oversight Board, and this is supposed to help oversee the effectiveness of the Officer of Independent Monitor, which is consisting of community members appointed by the mayor and confirmed by City Council. They're supposed to be making policy level recommendations regarding discipline, use of force, and other policies, rules, hiring, so forth on like that, and to kind of make and review recommendations when it comes to internal affairs investigations. This board usually meets monthly and holds quarterly public forums throughout the city. Of course, like with COVID-19, that may have, been a slight change, but just know like this is out there, in terms of like being able to know like what's supposed to be happening. And certainly we could have a conversation about how effective these strategies are, but know that they are there. And so with that, I'm hoping that I can then turn it over to Elizabeth briefly to talk about another way in which we are looking to hold police accountable for their actions when they are engaging with community, as another avenue for us to get involved. And so, Elizabeth, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here with you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, and then just let me know when you want me to switch over to slides.
Yeah, you can go ahead and pull it forward. Thanks for letting me be with y'all for a moment here. I'm actually on my way back to the Capitol, and I want to talk to you for a bit about a bill that ties right into the Know Your Rights presentation that Jess just shared with us. And it's a bill that we certainly hope that you're going to take a minute out to reach out to your legislators in Colorado and support. So SB 2217 is big. It packs a lot into a bill. It's the bill to enhance law enforcement integrity. And you've got there, we listed 5 of the things that it does that are most important, and it actually, like I said, packs a lot more in. I want to start actually with the one on the bottom, because this is, everything in this bill is important, let me be real. But this last thing is the thing that is the real game changer. And it's also the provision that we're going to face the most resistance on, because it's the thing that best protects our rights. So you may not have heard of the term qualified immunity, but I'm sure you've heard of the concept. And qualified immunity basically boils down to, it's the provision that prevents people from being able to sue police officers and sheriff's deputies in state court. That's simplified, but that's essentially what it does. And so this bill, SB 2217, is going to remove qualified immunity for peace officers only, related to civil rights litigation in Colorado. And you may hear some folks counter that this bill is going to bankrupt counties. No, it won't, because in fact, the only folks who would be paying out would be folks who violated constitutional rights. So Jess talked about what your rights are. So the only time where a jurisdiction is going to be in a position to pay for this is if they violate constitutional rights. So it's actually an incredibly inexpensive bill in that it's totally free if you don't violate citizens and residents and visitors' rights. The bill also is going to mandate body cameras. It's going to force public reporting and provide public data on policing. It's going to help us rein in deadly and lethal force by peace officers. And incredibly important as well, prevent the rehiring of police officers who have harmed our community and other communities. We see again and again that the officers who are named as responsible for killing our neighbors in Colorado and elsewhere, again and again, it's not their first offense. It's not their first time at that proverbial rodeo. They've been cited, they've been disciplined, and often they've been run out of a department. We don't want those officers in Colorado, and we certainly don't want to send them elsewhere. So when we're thinking about knowing our rights, I'm a mother of a 23-year-old Black son. I have Black nieces and nephews. Goal number 1 is always come home safe, right? That's goal number 1. But as Jess pointed out in her presentation, unfortunately, heartbreakingly, that's not always within our control. So know your rights and do what you can to stay safe. But as you protect your rights, you want to make sure that if your rights or someone you love are violated, that we have recourse, and that we have recourse in the courts. And so SB 2217 is incredibly important and timely. And I'm going to stop doing a plug because I know Jess is going to snatch the mic from me if I keep talking about this. But it matters, and our legislators need to know not just that we expect this bill to pass, but they need to know that we have their back, because they're going to face really difficult pressure from police unions and frankly from folks who've made a career out of protecting bad actors. So we want to make sure that we have the right to protect our rights, and SB 2217 helps us protect the rights that Jess just walked us through knowing and protecting.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. So now that Elizabeth has laid out for you why this bill is so important, when I said, we were going to roll up our sleeves and get to work, this is what I'm talking about, and this is how we're going to start. So currently, Yep. So currently what we have here is we have our primary bill sponsors. So on the Senate side, we have Senators Rhonda Fields and Leroy Garcia. And then on for the House, we have Representative Selena Gonzalez Gutierrez and Representative Leslie Herod leading the charge for this bill. So this morning, I shared with folks in terms of ways in which we can call on our senators to support this bill. And so I know Delana had shared, we could text. And Delana, is it 3377 we can text to tell our state senators to support SB 217?
That is correct. It's 33777. So yeah,
okay.
Act now, all together. So not two words, one word, act now.
Okay.
At
So I apologize for not that one.
33777. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's one way. You can do a quick text in terms of that. If you are on your computer, then certainly we can also go to the website. And again, we will continue to keep posting this link, but you should have also received this link through my messages to you this morning. So if you go into here, the message is already populated. And then again, like the most important part of this bill is, removing that qualified immunity defense so that police officers aren't hiding behind that as they continue to use discriminatory force against the community. So I want to, I know we're a little bit over for time, but I want to give folks like just 2 minutes to quickly fill this piece out, with your information here. I'm going to give you guys, maybe about 1.5 minutes to get this done. And then I'll show you even another way we can reach out to our senators to support this bill. So go ahead and fill this out.
And I just want to say really quick while you're filling that out, people are raising their hands. If you have a question, please type it into the Q&A box. We're not going to take the questions from the raised hands, so please type them in the Q&A box. And I am typing the text too in the Q&A right now, so hopefully all of you will see that if I do it right. Here we go. Yes. Can we get yard signs for the bill? No, we are hoping that this bill will be, yard signs take about a week to print up, and we're hoping this bill will be through the process very quickly and signed into law very quickly. And they would like us to spell out the website. I'm not sure which website, maybe. Okay, I just posted the text number, so you all should be able to see that.
Okay.
We get a lot of thank yous for the presentation. We love doing these presentations, and Jess is our returning champ here on presentations. But it is, I'll read it off. It's, oh, can you go back to that screen? I'll read it to people.
Yes.
Action.aclu.org. And then that's a / I believe. Send dash message, co-support-law enforcement accountability. This will be emailed out tomorrow to our entire list. So hopefully you'll all get it. And I am getting so many wonderful little emails from our texting friends. So thank you so much for doing that. Do you want to start working on some questions, Jess?
Yeah, well, I was also going to, like, if we want to do that, I also was going to say too, like, if you have a, if you're, Twitter savvy, then you can also, we have senators who could use a little bit of a push or a bit of support on this bill. And so we also have sample tweets that you can also send. So you can pick one, go real quick, takes a minute to type out, their Twitter handle and asking them to support, SB 2217 to end the qualified immunity that prevents holding police responsible when they violate the laws and community trust. And so, just as you guys are doing that, I just want to again kind of go over that quick summary. If nothing else, please leave here knowing, the phrases. I have the right to remain silent. I have the right to remain silent. I would like to see an attorney. Am I being detained or am I free to go? And then also, I don't consent to searches. And so please, those are the things that I want, to be mindful of. But for the sake of time, because I know Elizabeth has to get off soon to actually start hearing this bill in committee, I want to open it up for Q&A. So then that way, if folks do have questions about the bill, Elizabeth can help answer them for you. So, but Delana, can we look through the questions to see if there are any questions related to the bill first?
I am muted, sorry. Besides the question about yard signs, there is, I'm not seeing anything. So do you want to start?
If y'all want, I can take a couple of quick, easy ones.
Sure, that would be helpful in terms of if we have any questions as it relates to folks' rights when interacting with law enforcement.
Here, let me just take a couple that are have kind of yes or no. Okay. Do the rights related to searches apply to non-citizens? Yes. The question says, what happens if you're being detained and they say you are? If they say you are detained, then you should sit still and definitely be quiet. Someone asked a good question about if you can put your flashers on and drive slowly to a nearby well-lit place. Yes, you can. If you're able to, we would encourage you to give a quick call to 911 to dispatch and let them know what you're doing so they can relay it to the officer. Someone asked if a pat down is considered a search. That's a great question. It's a safety search, and so you don't have the right to deny consent to that. Just mentioned if you're asked to empty your pockets, you can deny, you can say no to that and should, but a police officer is able to pat you down. It's considered for their safety if they're taking you out of a vehicle. Am I going too fast, Jess? I was trying to get a couple in there.
I think these are really good, quick, yes, no questions. So
there's one, can they go through your phone without your consent? I think that's...
No, they cannot. Going through phone definitely requires important question, not go through your phone. They can lock it to use a fingerprint to give a pat. They would need to get a warrant for that. Someone asks, is it illegal for the police to trick you? Trick is a funny word, but the short answer is in most instances, they are allowed to lie to you. So that's why it's so important that you know your rights and know to say no to consent searches as you see fit. Says tricky, seems like the law should be changed. I agree, but we'll have to work on that later. Body cameras, there's not a mandate statewide. There's more to do on that. If you are a female and get pulled over, can you request a female officer? That is a great question. The short answer is for a safety search right then, you could request it, but it's not, your rights are not necessarily violated if the officers decide that for their safety, they need to proceed with the search. Where can we track the bill? Are we able, y'all, to drop a link somewhere, Jessica?
Yeah, I can drop a link to folks in terms of going to the Colorado General Assembly's website since the bill is up. And
I actually do see, I realize I actually do now see one more question related to the bill. Dave says, I don't think I understand the statement that the bill does not cost anything since defending yourself in court can be very expensive. That's a fair point, right? Legal representation does have a cost. I want to be clear that the bar here is very high. Being allowed to file a lawsuit does not mean that folks are going to willy-nilly be able to get into court. And in fact, if someone has been found to have filed a frivolous lawsuit, those legal costs would then tend to fall back on the person who's filed it. I hope that makes sense. right? So if an agency finds themselves defending themselves against frivolous lawsuits, that's not a cost that's likely to be borne by the agency. Thanks for the distinction.
There's a question here that's come up twice. Are you able to lock the doors of your car legally?
I saw that and I texted someone and I've gotten different answers to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the short answer is yes. And I give this as friendly advice, not legal advice. I don't see a reason why you could not. If you have I don't see a reason why you could not. You can close your door. Yes. I'm just going to be more definitive on that. Yes, you can lock your door.
Okay. And a couple of questions about how long you can be detained without being arrested. And I think
that's a good question.
It's a good question. It doesn't have a short answer because it needs to be reasonable. The most important thing to remember is that what you need to do, and I've had to have this discussion with my own son and brother, is it's okay to repeat, am I detained or am I free to go? Am I detained or am I free to go? And you should be told that. The timeline, right, can vary based on factors and what's happening, if someone's waiting for a supervisor. But if we're talking about a traffic stop, that amount of time can vary. If you're in custody, it's a different answer.
Here's one that's really timely right now. Does being out after curfew give the police the right to search you or your belongings?
So again, if you've been stopped and there's, it doesn't change your right that you have in that way. So if you're in a vehicle, the same thing applies. If you're in a vehicle, allegedly in a vehicle after curfew, and you're asked, can you search the vehicle? Your answer, or if you're told that they're going to search the vehicle, you still say no, right? Curfew doesn't change that. And the same thing applies to your person. If you're asked, as Jess said, to turn out your pockets or empty something, the answer should still be no. You still reserve that right. But similarly, they still do reserve the right for safety-related searches. That's a really good question. Curfew does not change that.
There's a lot of questions. We're not going to get to all of them.
Yeah, I hope that was helpful. I appreciate you guys. I've got to hop off and get to the Capitol. Thank you all so much.
There's just a couple of logistical things I want to go. Yes, Court Watch is coming back. Be on the lookout. Somebody was nice enough to put the bill up in the chat. Thank you. Awesome. I'm going to put that up here in a minute. They want us to go back to the Twitter message. Can you do that really quick, Jess? And also, there was one more. We will be sending out, this is a bill only in Colorado. It is not a federal bill. It is a state bill. The ACLU thing sometimes puts states in, so I don't think it's going to send it to other state senators. I hope not. In other states, that would be a waste of time. But yeah. So Jess, you want to go back to the Twitter stuff?
Oh, so yeah. So again, here's the Twitter message that you can send out to, the senators that are listed to your right. Again, these are senators that we've identified as, might needing just a bit more support or an extra nudge to support the bill, particularly when it comes to the piece of the qualified immunity defense, just so that they know that their community is behind this bill. So there's that.
Yes, great. So, and the peoplepower.org is a great place to go to see upcoming trainings. Follow Jessica's work, and you can just type in peoplepower.org and put your zip code in, and that should bring up our protesters' rights on Tuesday night at 6 p.m.
Yes.
So, and another way to follow Jessica's work is at our Advocacy from Home page. As I was sort of joking, Jessica is our returning champion of webinars because she is our community education manager. So you can find a lot of her previous webinars on that page. I think we also have an education page, right, where you can find the Know Your Rights stuff, like one-pagers.
Yeah, definitely some of our one pagers should be on there as well. And then of course, always if you're looking for more know your rights information, whether it be protesters being stopped by police, student rights, so forth, our national ACLU also has some great resources there. And that is just going aclu.org, and right there is know your rights under the issues there. So yeah.
So Jess, are you going to send these slides? The recording of this webinar will be available later today on the Advocacy from Home page, also on our YouTube page. But are you going to send the slides and some of the links in the slides to folks later today?
Definitely the links will definitely send. When it comes to the slides, it's a little bit tricky because there's a lot of video that's embedded in there. And so it kind of gets a little weird when you start chopping it up. But certainly like we'll have our video there and kind of going through the slides if you need to kind of look through the slides for information there. But certainly the links that are in the slides, I'm going to be working on an email to send out to folks who attended and or signed up with all of this information.
Okay, and there's still so many questions. These might be a good basis for an FAQ, so we will take a look at those. So anything, looking through just to see if there's anything, any closing thoughts, Jess?
Yeah, I mean, again, I appreciate the interest in this topic. Unfortunately, it's always kind of one of those things where it's timely, particularly for communities of color. But my hope in this is that at the end of the day, you feel more empowered to know exactly what to do in those situations. Again, unfortunately, the reality is that it may not change the actual outcome of the situation, but know that it at least solidifies what your rights are in court, and know that there are organizations on the ground as well as the ACLU who have been working to do this work in terms of police accountability and to stop the use of excessive force against our community, and we're going to continue to do so. And so I appreciate folks who participated. I appreciate folks who went into the call of action, because that's kind of one of the ways it starts, is a voice from the community demanding more from our officials. So thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, everyone. And just a quick reminder again, Tuesday, 6 o'clock, peoplepower.org. We hope to see you then. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.